Get ready for Tennessee's next game on the hardwood with our Vols matchup breakdown. We preview the Vols opponent and give you Tennessee's keys to victory here on Vol Basketball Fever. Hello everyone and welcome in to another Vol basketball matchup breakdown video here on Vol Basketball Fever. I am Nathanael Rutherford with Vol Basketball Fever, and Tennessee hopefully getting back to the win column here, taking on another team from Texas. Before we get into that, I want to say thank you so much for clicking on this video and watching it. Please subscribe to the channel below if you haven't already. We do weekly podcasts talking about Vols and Lady Vols basketball on here, as well as these preview matchups. We'll have some more content hopefully coming soon, especially with March Madness approaching. Maybe some more type of video content, not just audio stuff for podcasts as well. Give this video a like, comment down below your thoughts on anything I have to say here and your thoughts on this matchup between Tennessee and Texas A&M on Tuesday night in Thompson-Boling Arena. But now getting into the game itself, again, Tennessee taking on another team from Texas. The Vols are looking to avoid going 0-3 against teams from Texas this season. Of course, UT has already lost to Texas Tech, and they just lost to Texas over the weekend. So again, third team from Texas. Neither of those games that Tennessee has already played against Texas teams got above the 60s for either team. So a lot of low-scoring affairs. Will that trend continue on Tuesday? Well, there's I think a decent chance, but more on that in a second. The Vols, however, have yet to lose back-to-back games this season, and this game is being played at home where the Vols are undefeated this season and have the fifth highest average home attendance on the year. So Vol fans have been showing out in Thompson-Boling Arena this year. And again, Tennessee is undefeated this season, haven't lost actually dating back until I think late January or February of last year either. So been a bit since the Vols have lost at home. So kudos to you Vol fans for making it a really tough environment to play in as well. Against high major opponents this year at home, Tennessee is only allowing 60 points per game against high major opponents, while scoring an average of 70.2 points per game at Thompson-Boling Arena in those contests as well. To go to Texas A&M here, they started out this season really strong. They're 15-2 and 4-0 in SEC play, and I think people were thinking, okay, maybe this team is legit. Maybe they can, be a decent SEC team and make a run and get to the NCAA tournament. But now they've lost 4 in a row, and now they've actually started to face some legitimate talent, let's say, some tougher opponents. The Aggies are 0-4 this season in quad 1 games, so they've yet to get a really signature win, and they've had a couple of bad losses as well. And they've only had one win this season against a team ranked in the KenPom top 50. So the team is ranked in the top 50 of KenPom. They have one win against those teams. That was an 86-81 win against Arkansas on January 22nd. The Vols will only be the third top 20 KenPom team that A&M has faced this season, with the Aggies losing the other two, 64-58 against Kentucky and 70-64 against LSU. The Aggies are 3-2 in true road games this season, but those 3 wins have come against a 3-15 Oregon State team, a 6-15 Georgia team, and an 8-12 Missouri team. So they've yet to beat a team with a winning record in a true road game this year. So again, they have 3 road wins, but look at who they've beaten on the road. They have been competitive in their losses, however, as 4 of the 6 losses they've suffered this season have been by 6 points or less. They lost by 6 to Kentucky at home, 3 to Arkansas on the road in overtime, 6 to LSU on the road, and the most recent loss was by 11 to South Carolina at home, however. So, again, they have been very competitive in most of their losses this year. As you might expect, the Aggies are a good defensive team, a pretty solid defensive team, and a pretty inefficient offensive squad. They've allowed the exact same amount of points as they've scored so far in SEC play. They're averaging 69.9 points per game on defense and 69.9 points per game on offense as well, which further adds to that 4-4 mark in SEC play. They're basically exactly about as 500 as you can be for an SEC team right now. They currently have the 5th best field goal percentage defense in SEC play and the 2nd best 2-point field goal percentage defense in SEC play. And they also force just over 16 turnovers per game, which is one of the best in SEC play. And they are also averaging almost 10 steals a game in SEC play, which is the most in the conference right now. They rank 45th on KenPom in defensive efficiency, so they're another top 10 defense, or top 50 defense, the Vols are going to face, according to KenPom. They rank 11th in turnover percentage defense at 24.8% on the year. They rank second in the country on KenPom in steal percentage at 14.2%. So they force a lot of turnovers, and then they get a ton of steals. They get second in the country on KenPom in steal percentage. And they also block quite a bit of shots as well, averaging the third most blocks per game in SEC play. In conference play this season, Duke transfer forward Henry Coleman has been stellar for Texas A&M. He's been their most dangerous player, really on both ends of the court for the most part. He is averaging 14 points per game and 7.4 rebounds, which leads the team in both categories. He's making an outstanding 65.2% of his shots. He hasn't attempted a three, so that's all inside the three mark there. But 65.2% of his shots, that's a really good mark there for him. About basically 2/3 of his shots go in. A returning guard who has been there at Texas A&M for a couple years now, Quentin Jackson, has been a pivotal sixth man off the bench, averaging 11.6 points per game, 3.6 rebounds, basically 2 assists, and 1.5 steals per game in SEC play. So they have 2 guys that are very solid there for them to do a lot of everything that Jackson does. But again, they like to force a lot of steals. I believe Coleman also has a steal or so per game. The Aggies will typically play around 9 guys at a game, so they have a pretty decent rotation, but they don't really have much height, which that plays in Tennessee's hand. Of their main 9 rotation players, they have 6'8" Ethan Henderson and 6'7", 6'8" Henry Coleman, whatever you want to, he's listed at both. But then the aforementioned Jackson and Aaron Cash are the only other players who are 6'5" or taller who regularly play for the Aggies. Everyone else in A&M's rotation is 6'2" or shorter. In fact, I think like the 3 or 4 of their most frequent lineups on the court have like what Tennessee does, where they have 3 guards, a 6'5", 6'6" guy at the 4, and then either usually Coleman at that 5 spot being the biggest guy on the court for them. So that matches up well with Tennessee, who typically their best lineup this year has been that small ball lineup where they have a big at the 5, Jordan James at the 4, and then a combination of 3 guards there to fill out the lineup, fill out the roster whenever on the floor. Despite that smaller front court, though, the Aggies have actually been pretty good with the interior defense. It's been pretty solid, but their perimeter defense, not been very good in SEC play. They're allowing the fewest 3-point attempts on the season in SEC play at just 17.8 for their opponents, but teams are making 33.8% of those 3-pointers that they're attempting against the Aggies, which is the 3rd worst percentage in the league. A&M is also very foul prone on defense, averaging over 20 fouls committed per game in SEC play, which is the 3rd most amongst all conference teams. SEC opponents are averaging 22.5 free throw attempts per game against the Aggies. And in fact, 20.4% of all the points that have been scored against A&M this season have come from free throws, which is the 63rd most in the country, which, I mean, that sounds like a weird number, but essentially that's close to being top 50. You don't want to be top 50 in that category. It's, I guess, basically bottom 50, bottom 65 in the country. So they're giving up a lot of points at the free throw line this season. Offensively, A&M is really bad at shooting the threes in conference play. They've made just 29% of their 3-pointers in SEC play after they made a lot in non-conference play. But again, their non-conference opponents were not very good. In fact, looking at KenPom, their non-conference strength of the schedule is ranked 324th out of 358 Division I teams. So again, they didn't have a very strong non-conference schedule. They were able to shoot the lights out from 3. Once we got the SEC play, though, they're making less than 30% of their threes on the season in SEC play. They aren't the most, they don't turn the ball over a ton on offense, averaging 14 a game, but they also don't dish out many assists at just 12.3. So that's not a great assist to turnover ratio. And this season, they are 2-4 when they turn the ball over 15 or more times. And over the last 4 games, which have all been losses, they're averaging 15.3 turnovers per game. So they've gotten worse and worse, as more quality opponents they've played, they've turned the ball over a little bit more, gotten fewer assists, and has led to more losing. For Tennessee, they're going to be the 2nd best defense this season that the Aggies have faced. They, of course, have faced LSU, which is ranked number 1 on KenPom. The Vols are number 5 on KenPom. This season, when the Aggies have faced the top 50 KenPom defense efficiency team, they're only averaging 66.6 points per game and are 1-6 in those games. The only win came against Arkansas. So A&M is only 1-6 against top 50 KenPom defenses, and they're barely averaging a little over 66.5 points per game in those games. On the flip side, the Aggies are right around 100 ranking on the KenPom offensive efficiency ranking, and the Vols have faced 8 offenses this year ranked inside the top 50 on KenPom. So the Vols' defensive efficiency isn't just based off of kind of bad opponents. They faced a lot of really good offenses. And they've held every team ranked above the top 50 in KenPom offense that they've faced this year under 70 points, with the exception of LSU and that 79-67 loss on the road against them. So every other team that Tennessee's faced that's been ranked above the 50s, or I guess better than or worse than 50 on KenPom offensive efficiency, the Vols have held to 70 points or under this season. So doesn't bode well for the Aggies. If they're going to be held under 70 points, it's not going to work out well for them for their hopes of winning, it seems like. While the Aggies thrive on forcing turnovers, Tennessee has done a really good job, actually, of not turning the ball over a lot since that really abysmal Kentucky loss not too long ago. In the 4 games since that loss to Kentucky, that blowout loss on the road to them, Tennessee is only averaging at 12.5 turnovers per game in those 4 games. Of course, they're 3-1 in those games since then as well. When the Aggies force 17 or more turnovers this year in a game, they're 10-1, with the only loss coming to LSU. But when opponents have 16 or fewer turnovers against Texas A&M, the Aggies are just 5-5, and one of those wins had to come in double overtime against Abilene Christian out of the WAC. So not a high-quality win, and they barely got it. UT has only had 17 or more turnovers in a game 3 times this year, and they are 1-2 in those games. So again, Aggies are really good when they force 17 or more turnovers. That's only happened to Tennessee 3 times this season, and they are 1-2 in those games. Just doesn't happen very often for Tennessee. I know Josiah Jordan-James is a bit of a hot button topic because of the way the Texas game ended. But again, he had a good game. He was 3 of 6 at the time from 3, finished 3 of 7. And that leads me into the point I was coming out here. He's actually finally found his shot, it looks like, from 3. In his first 11 games this season, he was only making 22.2% of his threes. But over his last 6 contests, Triple J is making almost 38% of his shots from behind the 3-point arc, and he has scored 9 or more points in all but 1 game in that 6-game span, and the only game that he didn't score 9 or more points was against Vanderbilt, where he played 4 minutes before leaving with injury. So every game he's played, an actual amount of minutes that matter, he has scored 9 or more points in those games, and the Vols are 4-2 in that stretch, with the losses coming to Kentucky and Texas. So again, he's shooting a lot better from 3, and I think he's had 9 and 11, 11 and 10 in those games. I think 9 twice, 11 twice, I want to say, and 10 points once as well. So again, his offense is picking up to go along with this already stellar defense. He's finally hitting some threes. So people can rag on him all they want. He had a really rough start to the year, and he deserved criticism. He's picked it up a lot, and again, making about 38% of his threes over the last 6 games. Last thing here to kind of, I think, an interesting thing to keep an eye on for Tennessee moving forward. Over the last 5 games, Tennessee's most used lineup has been their starting lineup, which has been Urosh, Plashik, Olivia Kamwa, Josiah Jordan-James, Santiago Vescovi, and Kenny Chandler. That's been the lineup that's been on the floor the most in terms of percentage of minutes played and percentage of them playing together. But outside of that starting unit, the Vols' 4 other most frequent lineups on the court at any given time is their small ball lineup, which consists of usually Fulkerson or Kamwa at the 5, and then Josiah at the 4, and then any combination of Chandler, Ziegler, Vescovi usually, and then Justin Powell being thrown in there at the small forward spot at the 3. So it's very interesting to me that you're seeing that trend of, yes, the most used technically is the starting lineup that's out there, but that really every other unit that's out there getting the most running time beside the starting unit is the small ball lineup with Fulke or Kamwa at the 5, Josiah at the 4, and then in combination of those other 4 guards playing the 1 through 3. Well, technically, really, it's Chandler and Ziegler playing point, and then Vescovi playing either 2 or 3, and then Powell at the 3. But still, the small ball lineup has been Tennessee, to me, their most efficient offensive lineup, and it hasn't really dropped off a ton defensively. So keep an eye on that moving forward, because I think it's going to be what you see more of for Tennessee, is less of 2 posts and more of 1 post, Josiah, and then a bunch of guards behind him. But that'll be it for this Vols matchup breakdown. Again, let me know your thoughts below. Comment down below your thoughts on the game, what you think the outcome is going to be, your thoughts on anything I said here, if you disagree with any of it, if you agree with any of it, if you're a Tennessee fan, an A&M fan, just a college basketball fan in general, let me know. Again, like this video. Please subscribe if you're a Vol fan or a Lady Vol fan. We'll have some Lady Vol content coming later this week as well. Lady Vols are playing, as I'm recording this, on Monday. They're playing Monday night against Arkansas. They have 3 games in this next week against Arkansas, Florida, and UConn. And the Vols, again, are in action on Tuesday night against Texas A&M. Well, thank you all so much for tuning in. Again, I'm Nathanael Rutherford. This has been another Vols basketball matchup breakdown video.